Hello and welcome to this edition of the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV. I am Philip Molisa. On this episode, we travel to Baku, Azerbaijan, and we want to look at COP29 that is actually still undergoing in that particular beautiful city of the world. And our topical conversation today is based on COP29, and we are talking about the need for inclusion of youth voices in policy discourse on climate change. I am Philip Mlis, and I have a panel of very distinguished youth of this country who are quite knowledgeable about matters happening within but also at the global stage, and they want to put their voices to this conversation to see that we actually get the goals we are looking at in line of climate change and where the world should be for sustainability. I will start with having them talk to us briefly about where they have come from and who they are, and a bit of what is interesting out there in the world before we get into the depth of the conversation. And I think I should start from my extreme left. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back here again. My name is Wilson Nwandinda. I do my research in international relations. I'm also an advocate of East African community integration, specifically youth inclusion in the process. And I also manage some youth-led organization called the Climate Action Uganda. I'm happy to have you.
Thank you so much for being here, Wilson Nwandinda, and we can't wait to hear what you have to share with us from the research you do in the diplomatic era, because climate is now a diplomatic issue, but also what the youth are saying from the ground where you come from. Thank you so much. Lady in red, we're happy to have you.
See, when you say a lady in red, it scares me.
You shouldn't be scared.
It scares me, you know my color, so.
This is a safe space, don't worry.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Natasha Ayereza, a student from Makerere University. I do Bachelor's of Arts in Social Science, yeah. I work with a youth-led organization, which is Youthline Forum. It's also based here around in Intinda. And also, I'm an NRM youth leader. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Youthline Forum, NRM, social scientist. We're happy to have you, and we can't wait to hear what all those three facets of the world have to say about climate change and indeed what is happening in Azerbaijan. Gentlemen, karibu.
Thank you, Phil. And my name is Augustine Olo, and relevant to today's discussion is that I am a 3-0 support person, and like the other two have said, I am also a member of a youth-led organization that I team lead, the Kinetic Youth Leadership Foundation. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Kinetic, and we want to hear the movements that happen and the energy that comes from that kind of organization into this conversation and how it contributes to shaping the future of the world in terms of climate and climate change. Thank you. And lastly, the lady just next to me.
Just what? Just next to you is some space, but anyhow. My name is Mirembe Angela Sevunya, and I'd really love to appreciate you for the singular privilege to be here this morning. And all the people have said they're in youth organizations. I'm worried if I'm not in one. Anyhow, I am the Executive Secretary of BRICS Environment and Climate Hub Initiative Uganda, and I also dabble as a Toastmaster. And my saying for today is, it is so hard to give sight to a person who has chosen blindness. So I hope this session will be quite enlightening to give sight to the blind man who is willing to see.
What more can I say to that? You hear from the powerful people I have here, and from the very brief introduction they give to us, you know that they have a lot to share with us on this particular topic, and indeed we can't wait to get into that conversation and we pick the knowledge, the ideas, and the experience they have on the subject. I want to come to you, ladies and gentlemen. in this country we keep saying ladies first, and I think it is something we need to respect on this very platform. And I will start with the lady who is not represented well in terms of color. Natasha,
Yes.
COP29. What have you heard from this conference? First of all, we've had 29. This is the 29th. We started from 1 in the 90s, and a lot has been said about climate and climate change and what the world needs to do and where we need to be. And very many years later, it seems we've not agreed as a world to get to this particular position. What have you heard from COP29, and specifically from the Ugandan perspective? What is Uganda saying at this particular level?
Thank you so much for the question. COP29, yeah, as we all know, is a conference of parties, and this is the world's biggest climate meeting that where all world leaders, organizations, climate activists, governments come together to look for ways on how they can combat and fight climate changes. But I mean, how do we talk about the future when the youth are not included? We have had youth represent us in all these meetings ever since it started, but it has been a saying that even though youth take part in these meetings, because literally every year it happens every year, and every time it happens, youth are represented, but youth are not given a big platform to make big decisions. So it has been a say literally to all countries, not only Uganda, not only Africa. So since the future is youth, and the youth are the ones to live in that future, why are not taking part in decision making? So that has been a say, and yeah.
All right, the future belongs to the youth, and how can they not be a part of the conversations that are shaping the future? That's what Natasha is asking, and it brings me to Olowo. You a youth leader. Why are you people not part of the conversations that are shaping the future which you are going to live in?
Well, Philip, well, it is true I am a youth leader, and it is also true that we are taking strides. We are participating in decisions and conversations that will better this nation, that will better Africa and the world at large. But maybe we are not significantly participating, maybe we are not getting significantly involved in the processes that maybe about to change this world. And yet, you know that the young people form a vast majority of this world. We have up to 16% of this world below 24 years, okay, just between 16 to 24. Now, those are the people that we should be planning for. We are unfortunately not planning for those guys. And with respect to climate change, climate activism, and climate education, you realize that we expect that if we don't take serious decisions and do changes right now, the climate of this world is going to change. If we continue to throw plastics, if we continue to live in a world where we don't teach people how to properly dispose of these, and then we don't include measures that try to mitigate climate change in our curricula, in our education systems, then it is possible that in 2050 we will not have a world to be proud of. So youth voices are important in all the decisions that our elders take, and we need to, as young people, maybe if we don't have a seat in such spaces, we need to carry a seat ourselves to those tables and discuss and have meaningful conversations, because you see we take a lot of pride in innovation, in creativity, in activism that can actually change this world. And yes, we are speaking, our voice is just low a little bit.
We are speaking, our voices are just low a little bit. Angela, picking from there, youth seem to have the knowledge when you listen to what the lady and the gentleman are telling us, but also from across the country and the world. You seem to have the knowledge, you seem to have the experience, the exposure, but like he says, you are speaking low. Your presence is not being felt yet. Recently, we had a census in this beautiful country, Uganda, and they told us the youth are anything between, I think they told us 73% of the population. Of course, a figure that is quite disputed by many. But if we are at that level, why do the youth keep having a lower voice in things that are shaping the future?
Well, as I did my research, I came across the word tokenism.
Yeah, I knew that was the open.
Yes. So in tokenism, we have the youth present as a symbol. Yeah, so we are there as a symbol, but not particularly substantiated in the whole situation. Because if I come and I give a suggestion of, you see, the climate is getting very bad. Sometime I made an analogy of, if we all come, like we are 5 people and we have all come with cars, and we all sat in one car, it would have saved the emissions which affect the climate. I have said it, yeah? They have heard it. Hearing it is one thing, doing it is another. So in a current state of the world, we do a lot of hearsay, talking, do this, do that, but acting upon what has been said. It's quite interesting that they're going to bring us to these forums to speak, we share our minds and our knowledge, and they do nothing about it. Given that we are the greatest demographic, we are the ones tending to the future. Those who are in their future seem to not realize that the future also has, as it keeps going, there are more people who are getting into the future. Yeah, if we are going into the future and the ideas we have for our future are not being paid attention to, someone who is making a decision for 40 years from now is, and yet they are like 70. To just be very honest, it is very likely that at 110 they may not be alive. But the person who is 10 at 40 years from now will be about 50, and they will be more affected. What's so disturbing is the person who is 70 making these decisions for us will not be there to feel the repercussions of what they have done, just in case the decisions they have made are not particularly beneficial to us. And I heard him speak about plastics and pollution and things of the kind. You see, environment and climate are quite synchronous. We cannot talk about climate and not talk about environment. And it's getting worse by the day. The degradation, the degeneration. In fact, plastic has become such a problem in the environment that microplastics are entering the system. And so disturbing. It is so disturbing that it somehow ends up in the human body. But if we do nothing about our environment, do nothing about our climate, and do only talking, we shall be surprised. Because the heat which you'll be feeling outside of these doors, it's on a different level, very different.
Wow. Thank you, Angela. She has a thing about age 70 and above, and I hope this is something that can be talked about more and more, and we see how we get to harmonize with her in terms of decisions being taken by people at that level. Wilson, you see, let me pick from the diplomas around climate change and indeed COP29. From the onset, we know that the most powerful nations of this country were not represented at the level of presidency. When you look at the United States, President Joe Biden did not attend. President Xi Jinping of China did not attend. When you look at Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India did not attend. When you look at Chancellor Olaf Scholz from Germany, he didn't show up. These are the greatest economies of the world, and of course you can mention a couple of others, Lula da Silva from Brazil, and these are the countries that either have the money or from the side of Brazil have the representation of great natural figures and futures in terms of forests and water bodies that can still contribute to the green we are talking about in this era. Come to the conference at the start, you have what many people called an era in the diplomacy of climate change, when President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan said, oil is a blessing from God. And remember, we are at a conference or an event where we are discussing phasing out oil. The host starts with calling it a blessing. And of course, we saw some officials, especially from France and Canada and Brazil, pulling out of the conference. What did this mean for the success of the conference, but also going forward, the willingness of these big countries in creating the financing that we're looking for in this endeavor?
Okay, thank you, Philip. We all must know that we are living in a world where the impacts of climate change, they keep getting worse every day, every day. Like one of the panelists said, this is the 29th conference of parties. So I believe from the first 29 years back, those that spearheaded this, maybe some are long gone, they are deceased, they died, or they are no longer active. But then what has been the impact since the first year of the 29? Because we see every day it is deteriorating. If you see the statistics, the emissions, day by day they increase. And then Africa as a continent, it only meets below 15%. I'm trying to carve it into the diplomacy question you asked me. Well, Africa was represented, like you said, people that should be showing the way are the greatest emitters or the polluters of the environment. Industries are that side, like you said. So them not showing up for these conferences, it is also a message on its own. Because they are not ready to do away with the industrialization that is causing these emissions and what so. But then, to bring in youth later, before we went on set, we were having some little debate here about the implementations of what is discussed. Like we said, 29 years back, I am very sure a lot of policies have been suggested, very many of them. Solutions also given, but then it all dies on the level of implementation. So what actually now the gist of the matter is, what is stopping that implementation? That implementation stage, because problems are there, we know the causes and we know the solutions. But then implementing the solutions that are there. So I would ultimately say that I wouldn't call it a waste of time for these conferences, because the COP29, at least, it creates a platform for everyone to like, we are seeing what was happening, everyone bringing all their grievances to the table to be heard. Yes. But what are we learning from them? After the conference, after it ends, does it just end there, like we have ended the conference, let us wait for next year? Then what happens between, okay, or if I may ask, what happened between the COP28 and the COP29, the two conferences? What happened in the middle? What happened to the solutions? What happened to the implementations? What was implemented? Because every day the statistics get worse, get worse, get worse, get worse. The environment is being destroyed. And then now it gets to us. Because these people, all the presidents you have mentioned, 50 years from now, they will be long gone. It shall be us. Yes, youth, I can give it a plus on the youth inclusion, because if you, like, over the years, the youth representation to the conference, these conferences of parties, it has increased. It increases year by year. You see, the youth are brought on board, but then it stops there. On the conferences, we don't have permanent youth panels, like youth representation there. Maybe they create a board for the youth where these grievances can be sent to direct. It just stops there. It's just a conference, like we have come here on a show, after everyone will go their own way and nothing will be done. So this is the conference. First of all, it is the
I mean, they organized another conference. You're asking what happened in between. There was organization for a new conference, at least. Let's start there.
for a new conference. You see, sitting there and maybe consuming the budgets, what, it does nothing. It does no impact on the environment.
Wilson, there is a message that is sent. For example, having a great oil-producing country like Azerbaijan, and indeed previously we saw in the UAE, countries like that hosting such conferences itself is a message that actually there is something being done to see that this thing is worked around and we get a result out of the deliberation. Not so.
You see, I think I would call it politics. To sum it up, these conferences, yes, we must look at the nucleus of the matter here. You see, these conferences, yes, they are there, very well organized. A lot of money invested, everything is there. Yes, you give your opinions, they write them. My problem is on implementation. Over the years, everything is worsening. Impacts of climate change.
Thank you, Wilson. And I want to actually ask Natasha about that very thing. Look, when he talks about implementation, looking through how we've moved as a world, you know, we had what we called the Millennium Development Goals, and among them was issues of climate. They later evolved to Sustainable Development Goals. Still, climate is one of the most critical in that particular, in those 17. And we have the Conference of Parties now, 29. We are talking about the same issues. At the Conference of the Future, climate was a central point. When you look at all these conversations in the United Nations General Assembly, climate is talked about. Locally here, we even have environments, ministries of environment and other organizations in Uganda, NEMA, and many others. Why is it that we are not doing what we are supposed to do, what he's calling implementation, to see that we limit global emissions and indeed temperatures to the 1.5 degrees Celsius we talk about, which is slightly higher to pre-industrial levels? Why?
Thank you. He failed to mention it that these meetings are wastage of time.
Say that again.
I'll clearly say that some of these meetings is a wastage of time. Because clearly we have seen that Uganda this year we have been represented by 400 people, right? 412.
Thereabout.
Yeah. And to me, okay, I'm not an accountant or something, but if you count that money, I believe it could even resettle back the people who were displaced by NEMA, the issues we had when this year was starting, right? So we have seen all these people fly every year because it has not been in Uganda, we hosted it, they fly, you get it? And if I'm to remember well, of recent when I traveled to Tanzania, flight was on 1 point something. Then how about tobacco? Meaning it's like millions. So literally, we are wasting money, we are wasting time, and also resources.
In other words, you're saying enough of the boardroom conversations. Let us pick these monies, and whether we have to plant trees, let us use it for that. Whether we have to clean rivers, whether we have to invest in recycling, let us use the money we're using for the conference for this particular purpose. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Phil, but there is nothing like we are going to sit in boardrooms on round tables, we discuss things that are not going to be implemented. You get it? Because we have talked about these things, we have exhausted them, you get. But the challenges we have in these youth discussions, because yes, we are representing and we are represented, is that the big stakeholders are not trusting the youth. But at the end of it all, when they note down, like our submissions, they use them ahead by themselves. We have seen those things happen. An organization like maybe Total puts an expo, it calls out young people to come and exhibit, showcase their businesses, their products. At the end of it all, we see a Total organization representing the same products which youth showcase, like from informal sectors, it's being represented internationally. So it makes no sense when we continue doing this thing of discussing, speaking, because young people are good speakers. Young people are good at giving fresh ideas and fresh solutions, but where are they? They are going to fly back. Are we going to see them implementing what they are talking about? Because this is a COP29, as he has said, we started from COP1, COP2, COP3, and every year it has a different agenda, different policies being made. So literally, we are doing nothing.
Wow. That's rather worrisome if indeed we are doing nothing in this particular.
And hearing that from an NRA perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. There is no
Wow.
politics in climate.
Like these guys are in charge of climate.
No, there is no politics in
Okay,
climate.
we are in charge of climate.
And it's good.
Philip.
It's good you say that. Yes, you want to.
If I'm to come back at it again, I've also observed something from her presentation. Like, all of that money invested in these people flying to Baku, coming back, what is the return on investment? On that investment, what do they do when they come back to the ground? Do they involve us who have stayed here and show us what to do? What exactly
I
is
need
it?
to give you an example. I have, I think, like 3 friends of mine who have traveled ever since COP26, actually COP25, up to now. They have been flying every COP that
Does
comes,
anyone
they
lead
fly.
the youth
They
led
come
climate
back. When
action?
they come back, we are no more on the ground. We are again bordering judges.
You
which
are
are
together
making
on
Most of the-
motorcycles. You are
Yes,
throwing around
most of
bottles
these people
together.
just fly for trips. It's like a trip. Yes,
So last year when they were
I was in
actually-
Azerbaijan doing what they don't know.
Last year it happened in Dubai, right? We saw on media Uganda trending that Ugandan youth who went to represent us in COP are on yacht, eating life. You didn't see the pictures on media? Like, okay, I don't know.
I mean, people have to live life anyway. Although, look, you see the conversation, the trend that you people are taking, I don't know. You see, when we say, she says we are doing nothing, he says there is no return on investment, and you see, what we are talking about is not some kind of football match. We are talking about the sustainability of life on this planet. Because if we don't manage this particular circumstance so well, then certainly humanity might cease to exist, and indeed life as a whole. Where is the missing link? If we have these meetings and you have heads of state, you have experts on the environment issue, you have officials, ministers, and so many of these people whom we assume have the power and the authority, but also the resources to make sure that what we need to live as a people is there. Someone famously joked that if we do not work well around this in the next 100 years, if we were still here, we might actually have to be going to the museum to have a look at what a tree looked like, at what a normal water body looked like. And when you look around the country now, you have a downpour for a few hours and everywhere floods. I was looking through Europe. Spain has just been through a very terrible flood. The USA, terrible. Go to the UK itself, go to France. There is a lot of mess and crisis around the world in terms of climate. If it's not floods, it's very high temperatures, and we've experienced these things locally here in Uganda.
Yeah.
What is that link missing for us to understand that this is a do or die? We either do it or we die, and why? I don't seem to understand that.
Yeah, well, Philip, I think that for starters, the conversations around climate change have happened for a little bit longer than 30 years. It is good to know that there are countries that have also benefited from these conversations around COP. And you just rightly mentioned about football. We had the World Cup recently, and in Qatar, you know that there are over 5 stadia that were constructed from plastics, and those were brought down. Another was shifted to another country after the World Cup. Now, there are countries like Germany that are really gaining a lot from the conversations and negotiations that are happening even right now in Baku. But the challenge is on the missing link that you ask is on the willingness to implement the outcomes from the negotiations that we have from global platforms, especially for African countries like Uganda. And then the willingness to also train. You know, for me, I come from an education perspective that we need to train before. It is easy for us to sit here and assume that people know what we know. But I think, and that's why I started with saying, let's include climate activism topics or things like that in our curricula so that young people from school get to know that there is this problem that we have to deal with. You're talking about 100 years. For me, I'm telling you, 30 years from now, if we keep doing what we're doing, like we keep dumping rubbish and sewage things into Lake Victoria, 20 years from now, we will have nowhere to go to. You know that issues to do with climate actually contribute more than 30% of the reasons why people migrate from one place to another.
Yes,
You know
yes.
that.
Very
And,
important. And maybe if I can add to that, there is a specific research from the World Tourism Organization, and they
Yeah.
say 39% of the global numbers of tourists actually go to tour because of weather. They want to
Yes,
find where
they
there is
want.
good weather, where there is good climate.
Yeah, and for our own country, that is about to change because you see, whatever those people leave their countries for are now migrating into this country, and I think we need to start having a more serious conversation around what we can do for our environment, around what we can do for our climate, and around what each one of us can make as a contribution. And you see, the things start with us. We're not going to sit here and expect somebody of 89 years whose work is simply to rest in their rooms to understand what is happening with our lives. We're going to reach a time when you cannot put on this. We're going to reach a time when you actually want to just move on a vest or without anything at all. So we are about to get there. But the good news is that there is hope if we can invest in willingness to change a few things about our environment. And let me just mention that the young people of this country, coming back home, the young people of Uganda are actually innovative. The young people of Uganda are willing to actually implement these policies. Last year we ran, between 2022 and 23, we actually ran a campaign. We ran a project, Bugaga, and we were asking young people to imagine life in their different spaces in relation to climate in 2050. And you could really see the passion. And there's a young girl in senior 2 then who actually gave us a social fiction. Social fiction is about imagining, you just imagine a world around you in 2050. And she said, in 2050 we expect that we are going to have a different new world where actually we'll have very few trees on earth because of the effects of mankind on and to the environment. And this was a young girl of senior 2 then. I think she sat her senior 4 this year. And that is from a group of young people that actually took it upon themselves in the western part of this country to teach the young people that there are better things that we can do with the plastics away from just disposing them into the rivers, the lakes, and to the environment. So that group of young people actually constructed a library out of plastics for their school. And I'm talking about young kids in senior 1, 2, 3. Now, we have legends at the university who sit in a taxi, buy a bottle of Yaket or any kind of water, take it from the taxi and throw it through the window. You get a point? So these kind of young people need to be taught, first of all, that you know what, even when you're at the university, you're not as big as you think. You have a responsibility to hold a bottle of water with you until you properly dispose it off at a designated point, but also to emphasize on recycling and mitigation efforts.
Wow, maybe I need to share with you a story that is much more sad than that university legend. One time I was behind a ministerial convoy, and this convoy actually through the window, a bottle of water came out to the roadside.
That's another legend,
So it seems there's something to do a lot with age and so much. But Angela, look, you do a lot of studies and conversation and research about climate as a scientist, as a biological scientist, as an environmentalist, and many other things you do. Paint for me a picture of what the climate crisis looks like today. I know, we know we've cut forests at a pace that has never existed since time immemorial. When you look at what is happening at Tumavira Forest, I don't know whether it's still there. I've not been there in a couple of months. It could have been depleted. When you hear the stories that are coming from Budongo Forest, when you hear the stories that are coming from Zika, when you hear the stories that are across the country, across the region, East Africa, same story. On the continent, Europe, it's terrible. Asia, paint for us a picture. How are we, when you look at the water bodies as you're doing your studies, when you look at the rivers, when you look at the lakes, when you look at the forests, where are we?
The only problem is I don't have a canvas, but I've gotten a big picture of that. Let me first come down to Uganda. It is so hurtful that a country that is endowed so much so that it was named the Pearl of Africa can have one part of the country suffering from flood and another country desertified. It's another part of it desertified. It's so hurtful. But if I paint a picture of the future
What is that even? It doesn't make sense.
I mean, we have been seeing...
I mean, based on size, this country is very small, because I've seen countries that are privileged to have a very huge area transform their parts of their nation. Countries like China, there are places that were deserts and now they are green. When you go to Saudi Arabia, there are parts of it that they have made green now. When you remember through history, we famously talk about how Thomas Sankara transformed Burkina Faso into a green country. Why could we have a desert in this country, Uganda?
You see, I kept on writing down a few notes from what I kept hearing my colleagues say, but it crossed my mind that in my P3, I was taught what causes environmental degradation, deforestation. How do you improve the environment? Afforestation, reforestation. I had these things when I was in what? P3. I'm about to finish my university. But seeing that the investment we have in the afforestation and reforestation is less compared to the deforestation we are doing, because I've just heard you speak of the eradication. They are seriously cutting down the trees in Mavira Forest, and this is in itself hurtful to the environment, because a few years from now the carbon sinks are they keep on reducing. The only problem is as the carbon sinks increase, the people on Earth are increasing. We all release carbon dioxide. We are the first carbon emitters. Then we start adding the automobile. So all this time we are emitting and not doing anything for the environment. One wise man said the best time to have planted a tree would have been approximately 20 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is now. But as we keep on talking of the now, we keep talking, not doing. So if I paint a picture of how the future is going to be, when I was young, I would put on these clothes like Max Long, and I'm not feeling hurt by the temperature. But recently I was on a farm. I had put on a vest. I was sampling leaves. My friend, the sun caned me seriously that day that I found I have marks of the vest on myself, demarcations and the sun. So this is clear. I mean, at least I have felt the impact myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of someone else, myself. So I'm saying that heat is increasing by the day. If we go down to analogy, the heat is increasing. The mountains, which are having snow, if the temperature keeps increasing, the snow keeps melting, the sea levels keep rising, we are going to have more events or happenings where the water leaves the water body, goes into the people. If it does that, a few deaths are going to happen. It will, of course, carry them back. Maybe over the years, they'll become fossil fuels, you see. But what is so hurtful is we see it happening, we see it. Like you see the temperatures are getting out of shape. But they're still cutting trees because we have been deceived to so much that we need money more than we need our environment, that we had rather have money than secure or conserve the future. This people have been talking about how people are investing money to go to Baku. If we got the money invested in one person and got seedlings, yeah, and both the government decided to buy land from particularly endowed people in the country who have like huge assets of land, and bought the land and planted the trees from the investment of how many people? One. We would have enough land every year if you just reduced one person and bought land and planted the trees and implement the afforestation and reforestation and put up projects that get rid of waste. Like the plastic enters the soil. When plastic enters the soil, the tree can't grow because what? The water cannot enter the soil, so the tree roots can't absorb the water to grow. So in the end, we are the source of the problems. We are the victim. We are the cause of the problem. We are the victim of the problem, attempting to look for a solution, but we are too focused on one thing over the other instead of reaching a compromise. I want money more than I want the environment. So I'm going to say someone said oil is a gift. Yes, oil is a gift. The Lord wouldn't have put it there in existence if it were not. But if I use oil in a way that is harmful to the environment, it means I'm getting my money, yes, but a few generations from now, my own grandchildren will have a hard time eating food. These temperatures have become, the Uganda had very known wet and dry season. But the climate evolution has been so great so that if a farmer sets out to plant, he's not sure, will they grow, will they not grow? So we have been taught irrigation, we cannot apply it. We have semi-arid places. You're talking of countries that were desertified, now supplying food. Globally, a country was desertified, yours is semi-desertified. You have some parts having floods, other parts are having deserts. No, please.
Yeah, I mean, when you go out in the market, you have onions from Egypt, you have apples from China, you have oranges from Kenya, and all these countries, avocado.
And yet the country is
yet to have some from Saudi Arabia.
85%
Saudi Arabia, we are importing. We are actually importing tomatoes from Israel. So these are all sad realities that are happening.
And like she says, you see, we are the problem. Maybe let me just put it that. If you see, there's a deliberate government effort now to send people away from the swamps. But what are they doing with the swamps? You get the point. So they send you away because you're actually doing rice, and then 2 months later there's a factory. See that? And so we are not involved actually in massive production of most of the things that would eradicate some of these problems and challenges that we have.
Wow, let me hold you at that. We are the problem and we need to solve that problem ourselves. We shall pick on that just after this very short break. It is the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV, and we are discussing COP29, climate change, youth inclusion, and what we are doing to make sure we guarantee sustainability of life on this planet. Because if we do not, I don't know how many of you will have access to Elon Musk's space shuttles to go to Mars and wherever he can take you, and you need to be worried. It's quite expensive. We're going into a very short break and we shall be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that very short break. It is the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV, and we are discussing COP29, climate change, youth inclusion in these debates that are shaping the future of the world. And joining me on that conversation is Wilson Nwandinda, Natasha Hereza, Olo Augustine, and Angela Sebunya Mirembe. While we left off, we discussed a lot of things to do with the conference and what is said out there. People are saying that is useless, the resources should be brought back into the ground and implement the particular policies we've been talking about since time immemorial. And I don't know what your view is, but we shall wait to hear your feedback from our platforms as you get to engage with the conversation and see what your view, your thought, your idea is. And that is at Civic Space TV on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, and many other platforms. But also at a personal level, keep having these conversations because they contribute to what will shape your living on this planet if you actually want to be here. I don't know whether you have an option. Colleagues, a lot has been talked about this, but look, one of the things that contribute to we ending up with the plastic, we ending up with all this spoiling of the forests, the water bodies, and the mining is our lifestyle. And I want to start with your logo. Look, a typical young Ugandan who has a bit of cash on himself has 2 mobile phones, and that means going in the forest in DR Congo to dig the ground and get some minerals that will contribute to the putting together of that mobile phone. They have a wardrobe that has about 20 sets of clothes, about 8 pairs of shoes, about they drink water maybe about 3 bottles a day. They have a meal on probably a plastic plate, and many other things, paraphernalia, things you may actually do away with. And we need them. I don't know. We keep using these things, and this lifestyle inspires the capitalist to make sure he produces what you need. Every time you go to the market, you ask for a polythene bag to carry what you bought home tomorrow, in the evening, in the morning. Are we committed to living on this planet with that kind of lifestyle? Oh, can we do away? Are we able to do away with that kind of lifestyle? And let me give this final background to that. COP26, Glasgow, Scotland. One of the recommendations was that the world should reduce on the consumption of beef. And the reason was that in the value chain of production of beef, you have a lot to do with degradation of the environment, from looking after a lot of cattle to how it's transformed into the slaughtering and so on, the clearing of land for grazing and so on. It contributes to clearing of vegetation. And they said, if the world reduced their consumption of beef by 50%, then we could save the world some of these emissions, some of the doing away with vegetation and so on. Are we ready to do away with some of these things?
Well, I think for a struggling nation like Uganda, we really have a lot, and I am happy you introduced it from the perspective of lifestyle. Majority of what affects our climate, what affects our environment is actually about how we live our lives. It's about how our lifestyle is. Away from saying I have 2 phones, in fact, of those 2 phones, like 2 of those phones were actually dumped here in Uganda.
Yes, sure.
UK used it. You see? And that is, like serious countries that have laws put on climate actually dump their devices here.
Yeah, they do. And
By the
maybe
time-
you should look at, again, some research by, I think, The Guardian and BBC. These countries actually pay our countries for them to dump what they dump here, including direct waste.
Yes.
When you look at global retailers like Walmart,
Yeah.
they pay some money, get the garbage from their supermarkets, put it on the plane, and they dump it somewhere in Kenya, in Uganda, and Tanzania.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And you see, again, that goes back to the lifestyle that we live. I told you I am a 3-0 support person. The 3 zeros are 0 poverty, 0 unemployment, and 0 net carbon emissions. So we envision a world that has those 3 zeros. And if we are able to deal with the first one of poverty, we are able to change our lifestyle, because probably I cannot buy first-hand clothes. And that's why I have a wardrobe having about 40 different clothes, maybe fourth hand. And then that's the reason I have 3 second-hand phones. I use this one for a month, it dies, I pick another one, goes off, I pick another one.
Someone famously
Because,
jokes, this legend has 3 mobile phones but receives 1 phone call in a week.
Exactly.
But only
There
if
is
you're
one
communicating.
of the phones actually is for hotspotting. So it goes back to, I think, the high poverty levels. But there is hope, especially because now we know that each one of us can be entrepreneurial in mindset, at least. All of us were born entrepreneurs, and so we can change something about our mindset, and so our lifestyle, and also about how we think. The COP26 that you talked about is also the one that actually started talking about youth inclusion in some of these policies. And I think that if they implemented most of the resolutions and the policy papers that they have adopted since that time, I think these countries that we call parties would be better than that. And I think we need to emphasize that the rings of responsibility are clear. It starts with me, and then to my community, and then to the environment. If we can deal with some of these problems at personal level, then we are able to have a beautiful environment and have a beautiful world and a place to live.
Thank you so much. Natasha, you see, he talks about mindset, and I know we have a vote in the national budget that talks about mindset change. I don't know how it's being implemented.
And in the NRM specifically.
You colleagues will tell me how. Of course, including many other votes.
I think
And,
that Natasha was in Changkwan, no?
Yeah, the NRM invests a lot in mindset change.
Mindset.
Yes, talk to me. What is it with the mindset of especially young people that should be changed, and probably how can we work around this mindset? Because I mean, information is there. It's just a Google away. Anything you want to pick an idea on, but we keep talking mindset. Maybe the budget is doing something. Talk to me about it.
Well, as I said, some of these things, I don't want to put politics, government or something.
No, a budget is not political.
Well,
Whereas it's
I
done
want
by
to-
politicians.
I want to first ask a question from my colleagues, just to be clear on this. These people who are representing us in COP, the 400 people, who is behind them? Who is funding them?
You see, the conference of parties of the COP29 and so on is a UN-led framework. It has a statute assented to by the government of Uganda, and invitations are given out to the government of the Republic of Uganda, and indeed all the other countries across the world. That's why you see the topmost event is led by heads of state of the countries that assented to the statute.
Well, all in all, to remove all this, as how my colleagues have said, in implementation process, or when we have removed problems or things that are affecting us, it always starts with us who are actually combating that exact problem. Let it start with me. They send it to my friend, my community, our leaders. Then finally it will reach to our destinations that we think it's supposed to be. Second, mindsets I don't know. You know, we analyze things in different things as us, eh? Because as we are discussing here, the people who are going to watch us, some are going to judge us, and they're like, this one is wrong here, this one is wrong there, this one is this. Eh? I just want to thank people who have taken an initiative and they have made sure that our environment is clean, and they have made sure that they have served things out, and they have clearly helped our environment to stay. So this mindset thing, it should be us. Change it literally.
Thank you. Wilson, sustainability in the climate world versus what we should call capitalism. We talked about the mobile phones. Someone is making billions of dollars off the mobile phone. Someone is making billions of dollars off the plastic. We talk about billions of dollars on the automobiles, in the oil sector, and we know there's been a lot of talk over time on how these multilateral organizations, allegedly like Shell and Total and many, and Gazprom, and these are international organizations, paid a lot of monies in producing research that actually contradicts the reality of climate change, such that governments continue not to work around it, such that they stay in business. How do we balance the capitalism we are running in the world with us trying to eliminate these threats to the sustainability of life on the planet?
Yeah, thank you, Philip. So you're actually talking about mobile phones. You are forgetting these cars. The cars that they send to these third world countries that we use here, where they are fourth hand, what, because these old cars actually they also have a very bad effect on the environment.
Yes.
We have leave on mobile phones, cars, because literally like 85% of
Ideally,
people,
what we all used to be here.
like 85% of people who own cars here in Kampala, they are like fifth hand or what. They go in garages every day. So and we cannot run out from this. But balancing with capitalization, like you said, we are living in the monetary economy world. Like one of us said, like we mind more about money than the environment. You talked about Saudi Arabia. You said Saudi Arabia is trying so much to be green. And us, Uganda in particular, which was blessed naturally,
We are trying so much to be like
to
Saudi
be
Arabia.
like Saudi. You see, the irony of the, like I don't get it. To view this COP29 thing with different lenses. First of all, I don't believe in sending this much delegation of 400.
Yeah, but you see, the delegation has specific roles that they are supposed to play. There are different conversations. The young people have a
Still, I don't think they can. I don't think 400 can.
The women have
Anyway.
a space.
Okay, let us leave it at
They all
that.
have
Whether they are,
different conversations.
where they are
Not convinced
600.
that all of them were participated on the panels.
Accountability.
Then,
Somebody-
okay,
Which
I
accountability?
surely, for avoidance of doubt, Phil, okay,
Continue.
I have, I know 7 people that attending COP29, and I know that of the 7, at least I have seen 6 participate properly. Okay, from Uganda there are 5.
Okay.
And, 2 other nations.
Anyway,
and they are all young people, and they are representing me and my ideas very well. Because one of them is in energy democracy, and another one is in youth inclusion, another one is in mitigation and adaptation. And so I think that the young ones, that of the 412, the young ones are doing very well. I cannot
Okay.
account for.
Okay, it's
I
okay.
can't account
Let us
for
leave the
all
issue of numbers. Okay, where there are 1,000, what. But then, I don't think, yes, we all want implementations from COP29, but yes, we have sent a delegation there. When it comes back, my issue is, what does it do? Do we get that information from them? Do they put it into work? Because we don't expect now those officials to come now on ground and do this, because in the first place that's why they send those invitations. Come, look at recommendations. If they say this year we have recommended to do this, go back to your country and do the same. These are the people that should be hosted on these panels, educating these people. I believe, even in my advocacy, what I believe in young people, actually starting off from primary. Even that we are getting old, you see. We have, yes, we are not that old, but you see, where I come from, they have this problem that a tree is bent when it is young. When it grows, it becomes so stiff. Just assume when we are in primary, like we go back to these primary schools, you actually teach them, if you destroy a tree, this is what will happen. You show them videos of what is happening in France and what. No, we were taught, but that was theory. You now scare them with these facts. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and you see, we have a lot of I've held a lot of conversations around that, and we say how we put out this information to the people. In other words, yes, you were taught about Lake Victoria in P3, but how detailed was it in terms of telling you the importance of Lake Victoria to this
very
country?
Good. That's what I'm talking about.
Economically, in terms of climate sustainability, in terms of sustaining the lives of the people on the lake, in terms of making sure we need to protect it is.
And there's also an SDG on a goal on life underwater.
Yes, life underwater. Today we are dumping wastes from industries in that lake, and when you look at the statistics and that, and we know that is a lake that sustains not just Uganda, it is the largest freshwater lake in the world.
But
And we share it with Tanzania, with Kenya. When River Nile goes out, you know how it's so useful to Egypt, to Libya, to Sudan, to Southern Sudan, and many of those people are surviving on this, but we seem not bothered about sharing this information with the kids.
Yes.
You see, what he's saying actually is trying to bring out, like, these people were representing us. Yes, they have represented us. When they come back, what do? How do they implement that knowledge? Because as I've told
Maybe
you personally,
what have your 6 friends done?
that's what I was going to
Yes.
tell you actually.
Discussing.
And also, as he has said, actually, me, I don't believe in this thing of sitting here, we talk to people, because even we have people deep down the village who have tried hard naturally to conserve the environment, who does not even have phones, you get it?
Yeah.
So how do we reach out to them? When I was growing up in primary, I happened to be in a UPE school. We used to have a chance where they would receive people, some programs from the government teaching us on different things. Let me give an example on how they used to tell us to prevent ourselves from HIV.
I should point out that this is a very powerful success story of the UPE in the country, and we applaud government for that effort.
Yes. So we used to receive people. We used to receive people from Taswe. They act for us. They do drama. They show us miserably how people who are having HIV positive are suffering. They bring drugs. They show us that this is how big it is. If if you mess around, they be like, say no to sex. You see, like they clearly come on the ground. You get it? So the same should come back to climate. Once they are back, they land in Uganda, they should think about on how they are going to teach these people. What are ways should they deliver the information to those people on the ground, not us who are in Kampala? Because at least me, I have a chance. I'm on Wi-Fi. In Kampala, we have free Wi-Fi by the government. I serve, yes.
Your Kampala is
I
underground.
serve. I be viewing even live COP, how it's running, who is on the panel, what. I even know their names, I can mention them. But they are making decisions for people who does not even have a phone, not even a small phone, you get it? So literally they should think about going back.
All right, and maybe for purposes of the audience, there is a draft policy to make sure the capital city has free Wi-Fi for everyone, but it should have been implemented in 2021, I guess. But until now, we are waiting on government to make sure they are able to.
Actually, that should have been earlier than 2021. Actually, before COVID, because that time, the Honorable Frank Tumwe was the Minister for ICT and National Guidance then. So, and now we've had, I don't know how many.
So unless I think maybe there has
10
been,
years down the road,
there is sampling and trying to test on specific people. But yes, Wilson, you can conclude.
Yeah. So she brought it more clearer, like how I want. Yeah, like she has said, the way they used to scare them, like AIDS kills. They show them pictures of people, how they die and how they suffer. So actually now climate change, the effects of climate change are worse than HIV now. Yes, you can live with HIV and you'll be okay. Yeah, but yes, where we are going, it is going to be worse. So my belief in going back on the ground, these primary people, show them these videos we see here, they scare us, people dying, buildings being washed away, all that. Show them that this is actually what happens if you clear a swamp, if you destroy a tree, if you don't plant a tree. Teach them how to do this. Maybe in the next generation, we shall have more serious people, more serious than us.
Yeah.
Yes. Because that is what we are all trying to get
But
to.
you are the ones who are not serious and giving birth to what? Now serious?
Yeah.
But again, it's not about lack of information. I think it is not about lack of information. Because you see now, if resolutions that are going to be shared at COP29, by the way, like for last week, we have information about it. The media is speaking about it. People actually know what is happening, in my opinion.
People know.
Now you see, my suggestion here is not about information. It is actually, this is implementation that I'm talking about. This is one of the ways of implementing. Like I said before, solutions are there. Recommendations were made from the first COP up to the 29th. A lot of them. But if they are implemented, we shall have a better future. But
I don't know if it's me who is wrong alone, but under this whole COP thing, I've not seen any session where they are giving us a review on what has happened when the last COP happened, like a review on what they have implemented, how far, where have they gone. I've not seen that review.
That happened pre-conference.
But that pre-conference.
As a matter of fact, there was pre-conference.
It was reviewing on what they have done so far.
And even at country.
You see, we should actually shift the blame from this COP29 and just put it on ourselves now.
Yeah, it has happened, surely.
So maybe you must realize that one of the drivers of whatever has to be done is money, and one of the most the critical points of the conference is trying to persuade the great economies of the world to set aside money, and they had proposed $100 billion per year, $1 per year for developing countries, most especially in the South, in Africa and in Asia, to be able to do away with the gas and the petroleum and so on, and emphasize green energy. Now, it's a monetary issue, and these countries have not yet agreed to put out this money. So that's why people keep on going for this conference to persuade these countries.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this time we didn't have most of them represented at the top level, but the diplomacy continues happening, and hopefully, maybe we are anticipating the next one to happen in Brazil, COP30. Hopefully by then we can achieve what we intend to achieve in terms of getting the monies and the many other things that to get implemented.
You see, Philip, as we remain hopeful, back home, what are we doing? I think it does not need a lot of money to plant a tree.
I mean, the government, with all the challenges, we should agree that there is an effort that has been made Whereas sometimes the implementation level is
But now,
10%, 15%.
my belief now, carelessness beats the effort that is being done, because you are giving an example of the harm enterprises that is constructing on a drainage channel.
Who is the owner?
Okay, but
We
you
hear
see,
Mr. Ham.
Phil,
Let me finish here. The other day, KCCA, the body that is actually tasked to do away with all that, it was on ground, and I saw the spokesperson on the news saying we cannot do anything. Let us wait for other people, maybe the government, to do this, because the guy had papers dated back to 2017. That, yeah, that. So the authority actually, their hands were tied. So now what do you expect? People go to Wino, I hear some places are being destroyed. I was in Jinja recently. All those factories in the outskirts of Jinja, the smell that is there, my God. People there, man, their health, it is very worse there. Jinja outskirts.
yeah.
You are on a car, but the stinking everywhere because of those factories. It is a serious problem. But then the government is quiet.
Wow.
Every day Chinese, even now when you go to Jinja, there are industries that are coming up.
You know something called bubu.
Not providing solutions for the problems that are there. Now they are adding other problems, and it is affecting now the poor people that are there because they don't have voices. It is
I mean,
it is
we
actually
even
a
have
very
live
big problem.
examples across the city where swamps are being filled up for construction. Lake Victoria is being filled up with rock and soil for construction to
sewage.
happen, and sewage and so many other things. But I want to come to you, Angela. One of the things we demand of our government, and indeed what is making countries be termed first world, second world, third world, is development. And one key element of development is industrialization and the exploration of all the resources that can create monies and indeed jobs for the people. And you see, Uganda is at such a time where we are looking at getting our oil start making economic sense in 2025. But also the other day, government was announcing, was it about 17 new other exploration centers across the country. And we're also looking at interests in gold in that Karamoja region and many other minerals, cobalt. We want to revive Kilembe mines in Kasese and a lot of mining. We're in an era where we're talking about artificial intelligence and the world of these gadgets, the mobile phones and so on. And the world out there is so attractive to Africans. Africans are dying in the Mediterranean and wherever to get to these places because they have all this. How do we balance the fact that we need to protect our environment but grow, but have that looks attractive to our people? How do we convince the mind such that they can settle for not exploring the oil, yet they need development, and we are demanding government to make sure there is development, there is jobs for people, there is a good road, there is a good hospital and many of these things?
Let me first start from the words of George Orwell from the book of Animal Farm, that some animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. This government puts in place laws, but so hurtfully, I don't know to what extent they follow them, because recently I was passing by Banda, those places where Namambe, I think, Seta, opposite Seta High School. Yeah, and they are removing premises, people's premises of residence, because they are in wetlands. So there is this particular place as you're going that side. They set a high school here, and there was a church there. But you know, interestingly, when it rained, water would cross the road from this side of setup to this side. When they were removing, they removed one side. Some animals are more equal than others. You said it's a safe space, or I should save my word?
Please, it's a safe space.
Okay. Then they keep on removing people from their places of residence, and they put up factories. It is so hurtful for me that in our country, it feels like it's the government or the people in parliament who are against their own people. if people,
Maybe that particular
I should
issue directly, if we can address it to the Director General of NEMA, Dr. Barilega, there is an issue at SETA. Some people are being taken away in Howard's. She says animals are more equal than others. Hopefully it's something you can look into and see if indeed some animals are being treated as unequal to others. Yes, you may continue.
You see, you've even made my point run. Anyhow,
Let it come back.
I was still talking about. Now we're going to the environment. We've finished speaking about animals and equality. I was talking about government officials. It is so hurtful. We are talking about how to make the economy favorable enough that we don't venture into such miserable place. I mean, a person, let me just whisper, if people were making money from coffee, now it has been monopolized. But it's to be discussed some other time. So it means the person who was making money from coffee now is going to have to look for another source of income. Yet they're already struggling to get market for their coffee. The economy gets harder by the day. Then as you're trying to get a breakthrough, let me stop there. I mean, I don't want a drone to get me. Anyhow, then you've been talking about, oh dear, my brain. It's spoken between my information. Let me read what I wrote. It makes me. Now, we're also talking about emissions. You've talked of industrialization. Industrialization in itself is not a bad thing. But industries produce very toxic waste, very toxic. So if someone is getting their waste, putting it into our water bodies, as though it's not enough that it has refuse, it has oil in it, so it's going to put oil spills. If it has been cleaning machines, it is likely that the water is also containing heavy metals. It's all being put into the environment. But it is okay for them to put it there because they did what? They paid. Who is the beneficiary or the benefactor of this money? I mean, English is not my mother tongue, so beneficiary, benefactor, disturb me. But who is benefiting from the money which is being paid by the people who are spoiling the environment? It is so hurtful. By the way, as we complain about climate and the rest, heavy metals are going to shock us here one day. They are going to
So Angela,
shock us.
look, we have our minerals underground, and every time another one is discovered, we celebrate. What do we do with these minerals? What do we do with our gold? What do we do with our cobalt, lithium? We know the world is moving. What is driving the world today? Even when we talk about green energy, you have to have lithium to be used in the lithium batteries that are used in those electric vehicles, and you need to get, of course we can't do away with oil in just a year or just 10 years. That is not, it can never happen. And we seem to have these things and we want to make money out of them. If you're discussing artificial intelligence, it runs on gadgets that are made out of minerals. I mean, you need the microchips, and the microchips are made from minerals, which we have vastly here on the continent. What do we do with the minerals?
In my opinion, it is a good thing that we are making use of these minerals, yeah? But it is prudent that the people who come up with these ideas have, they call it troubleshooting. Like, in my opinion, the person who made the plastic bottle was solving a problem. It used to be hard to carry a glass bottle of soda because you wanted to go with your soda. So the person produced plastics. But the damage of the plastic is posing right now goes up to life underwater, and somehow it goes up the food chain. So if we don't get ways of dealing with what we are making use of the minerals, but not all of them are heavy metals. Heavy metals are in the categories of cadmium, silver, mercury. They are those that when they enter your system, the body cannot get out, and they keep on bioaccumulating. Those ones, Bambi, they are going to shock us. If we don't get, how you're saying we are privileged, we get knowledge and the rest, they should start teaching people also about heavy metals, because they are going to shock us very soon, and the hospitals will keep on increasing. We need these heavy metals to employ our own people. People don't have jobs, you don't want us to steal. It is very hurtful that someone has bought their mangoes. They are on their little capital of 20K, trying to make money for their home to eat food. And then the police officers or KCC, I don't know, they come and they take the woman's mangoes away. Bambi, she chose to get her 20K of capital to sell mangoes, so that she doesn't what? Steal. Now you've taken her little capital, her few mangoes. If they didn't buy them, she would have eaten them with her family. Now you've taken them.
But we want
What is her next option?
And now she's speaking to implementation of some of these
What is the next option? If she doesn't steal, surely. You find a youth, I am a youth. You find a person my age, they have gotten their degree. They are competing for a chair with a 75-year, Jesus. Like someone is in employment. Yeah, you're 75 years. You're studying a master's to be upgraded at 75, you guys. When will the person who is 20 years get a job? If you are at 75, getting a master's to be given another job. It is getting so hard to get money.
We love seniority and experience.
If you are senior, you are quite knowledgeable, please share that knowledge you've gotten with now the agile, the working, the youth, the demographic that is in the situation. You're not going to be 95 and you're still trying. No, please.
At what age do you want to retire?
I want to make money, not by employment, but by employing other people. So I think I want to retire like by 50.
But I think,
wow.
I think all these things rotates around and it goes back to us. And also, you see, we're having problems like unemployment. Every now and then, every day, in youth sectors, everything, it's like unemployment. And not that we are not learned. Our friends are learned. And it's good that nowadays we have people who are graduating of bachelors at 21 years of age. By 23, they are graduating masters. By 25, PhD. Someone is done. You get it? So this unemployment, and when it comes back to climate, we are, like you mentioned, they are constructing like industries which are consuming what, and these industries are constructed to employ us. You get it? So I really don't understand what should really be done, because also we have seen organizations like NEM, as you have said, we are competing with people who are 70 years of age and 80. It advertises for a job just for formality, and you clearly see that you qualify for all these things, but someone puts a note that they want 28 years of experience.
What do you mean 20? I mean, I said 28 years of experience.
Whereby I'm even still 23, 24. I'm not yet 28, so meaning I would have started working when I was still in my...
Thank you so much. So, colleagues, I want to pick, excuse me, I want to pick your thoughts on, you see, when we keep having these conversations and the challenges, and I notice at least the something common throughout has been the ages in the 70s and the 80s as opposed to the lower ages. What is it that the young people, and this is a general question, I need to hear from each of you, what is it that the young people have that they can put to this table to add value there and see that their voice is heard? I should start with Wilson.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a quite tricky question, but then, yeah, so relevant. We are all crying of unemployment, people are staying in offices, but then, have you ever asked yourself a question, can I do what he's doing? If they put me in their position, can I really deliver? No, we cannot ultimately say they are doing nothing.
Yeah, that's what you know what they are doing.
Yeah, they are doing something. But then, of course, we don't expect you just graduate, then now sit back home, keep applying. No, something has to be done. Move outside. Increase your knowledge. Experience doesn't mean that you get a job. You can get experience. Just that where the inequality comes, that they don't even give you that opportunity to show what you can do. Even if you go there, it is for formality. I had recently, I don't know whether it was true, but it went rounds when Bank of Uganda was recruiting. Some time back, I don't think we can recall. some inside source, I think, wrote to one Dr. Spires, this is saying that all these jobs, people are already working. They have spent a month on the job, and they were just advertising those similar
But do
jobs.
we have a governor?
Yes.
So yes, back to your question, I think most of us are also not ready. That is the fact. You see, yes, we want these positions, but then we have not positioned ourselves for these positions that we want. A lot has to be done. Yes, we have to invest in ourselves. Knowledge. Learn, make research, know about these things. Start something small. You can build from there because you don't expect to walk into. We have to live with the reality. Yes.
Well, Ahereza, what do the young people have on them that really should be attractive for them to be on that table and do something to change the course of things?
Youth bring very many things on the table.
Which table?
Yeah, we have a lot of things that we bring on the table. I'm going to talk about like 3 things actually. One is that we bring fresh ideas. We bring fresh solutions, and that is reality. Second is that what we bring on the table is grassroots action. Some of us, we are still in institutions. I'm at Makerere University. At least I credit, some governments, though I credit them, they have done some initiatives where they have used some of their budgets to go back in informal sectors, to clean the environment, to burn those plastics, to plant trees, like everything, you get it? And literally, young people are working closely with the community. They know whatever that is happening on the ground. Our big stakeholders, our elders, they don't know. They are seated in their offices, they are politicizing around, they are doing everything. But young people are working closely with the community because they are living in the community already. Another thing, when we were seeing this whole thing of Gen Zs in Kenya, I think all of us realized that advocacy on media is really powerful. And young people nowadays, they are all over all internets. That's why you see you're seated here, but you're aware of whatever that is happening in Baku. So that's the powerful of media. So young people are closely advocating through media. So that is also one of the things they bring on the table. If it wasn't that if it was that media was not around, these outbreaks of NEMA, how people are crying, you would see NEMA comes and they puts down someone's house, and immediately, instead of someone crying, cameras are in their face, you get it? Cry and we put on TikTok, people are going to see you, they push it. So literally, that is also one of the things you bring on the table. We use media to advocate for all this. Yeah.
All right, Augustine, the young people, are they ready? And if they are ready, what is that they are ready with to influence whatever is happening?
I think that after COP26, and we are talking climate change and climate action and activism, after COP26, when they actually decided that each of these parties incorporates the young people in their delegations as they travel to whichever country hosts COP, I think that we have seen without doubt that the young people bring fresh energy to some of these conversations. The young people bring innovation and several interventions that can deal with the different actions on climate change, but also the young people bring, that kind of availability and the importance to the fact that they want to learn. And if these countries actually tap on some of these rather small things that the young people bring on table, I think that we are going to have a very beautiful world to leave behind for our children's children. Important to what I also wanted to add was to what you asked Angela about what we can do around these
The minerals
and industries and devices like these ones that host them. I think that it is about time we tap into the other thing that the youth bring, the young people bring, that is climate education. You see that it is possible, by the way, to be here and you use your phone in a way that does not harm the environment. It is possible for you to use your car in a manner that does not actually potentially provide a threat to the climate that we are talking about. And that is by first of all understanding, for example, let me just deal with the little one that we all are familiar with, recycling. If we know that we can actually use, instead of carrying a plastic bottle and dumping it into a river or a lake, if we understood that we can actually recycle, we can reuse some of these small particles. Same thing, if my phone got spoiled and I abandoned it there, it is actually, I create a potential harm to the environment. But inside this phone, there are minerals, there are things that we can actually pull out and use them into other devices. There are things that we can get out of this phone, and actually they can be very useful in other fora. We can pick particles from my phone or your phone that is damaged, or your laptop or parts of your car, and make them look better, and maybe have them in your sitting room somewhere as now a polished device that can be used maybe for decor in your house. If we get to know that, we will not throw things anyhow. And yes, the young people bring a lot of such things, because you see, someone spoke about Gen Zs here. Most of our parents or grandparents actually get to us when they want to just send a simple WhatsApp message. These guys are not actually informed about these things that we are discussing about technology, about artificial intelligence. They are not informed. So, and that kind of information is for us, the young people. And that's why I am impressed that now conversations in COP and these other platforms that foster and push for climate action are actually involving the young people of our generation.
All right, thank you. And finally, Angela, on this, what do you have to put to this table?
What do we bring to the table? The difference between an 8-year-old and a 20-year-old right now is one has money and another has time, while the other doesn't have money and the other doesn't have time. Let me get that analogy, or I first repeat. A person who is 20 years has time. They don't particularly have money. The one who is 80 most probably has money, but very likely doesn't have time. So if I have time, it's supplementary to the time I have energy. So if I need things done as a youth, as an energetic person, I'm not going to be doing them from the comfort of my chair. I'm not going to be on a Zoom call as I'm asking someone to take videos of those who are planting trees. I can be on ground to see the people who are planting trees, because I have the time and the energy to do these things. So the person who is 8 years will be doing me justice by giving me the money to help with the movement. They call it the logistics. Yes, they usually call them like logistics. And there are some phrases which I like in the Bible. It says, I paraphrase, I cannot quote. It says, there is nothing new on the face of the earth. We as youth have fresh perspectives to ideas that existed from time immemorial, you say. But if the idea is like afforestation, we have had it from before. We have reached the level where they do modern farming. In the days of old, the farming was, you have to get a hoe, you have to dig to put the tree in the soil. In present day, I can do the modern farming where I use my roof to plant a few things so that I can have an eco-friendly living with the environment. So the idea is still planting. The perception is, in the days of old you were using hose, present day I just collect a few ounces of soil, put them there, and plant my tree. That means I am modernizing the idea which you already had. Yeah, and sometime, yesterday, I was on a border. Around us, there is a place in Chireka. Only there is a place in Chireka which connects like 6 roads. So the drum in that spot, Bambi, it does not move. It does not move. When you are there, there is a concentration of emissions. But you realize, I will cry again, my initial cry. Each person is in their car, how many? 1. So if everybody is having a car that is emitting, every judge is carrying 1 person, the emissions keep increasing. If we as the people, we see these things, if we could choose to not just speak about them, but do something about it.
Maybe there is a government policy again that, and it's aged, that was talking about removing those individual drive vehicles from the city and replacing them with public transport in terms of buses and street trains. I hope, and cable cars through the space. I hope that is to be implemented really soon. So I hope it should solve that particular problem.
In the city.
Yes.
But this very city, like I was saying, Nema was removing people from swamps. Why is Kampala always flooding? Was it a swamp before? Should look for, they should, if they don't know if it was a swamp before, they should look for ways of solving that water problem. Cannot be having the capital city flooding every day.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, our time is very much fast spent. We have about 5 minutes to be out of here, and I think the deliberations you've made have been very, very powerful and candid about this conversation, and they should be able to influence a lot of what is happening on these tables, that in there discussing what the future should look like, which you people should actually live in peacefully, but also your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, not on Mars. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, and I want to say, when we keep saying, when we keep talking, when we keep making the people aware of what is out there in the world, then certainly it influences how they act, and that influences, if we say good things positively, how we behave with the environment. I am Philip Mlisa, and I had Wilson Nwandinda on this conversation. I had Natasha Hereza, Olo Augustine, and Sebunya Mirembe Angela. Thank you so much for joining the conversation and for the amazing views you've had to share with us. Special thanks to our viewers, and special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance and all our partners that contribute to the success of this particular activity, and we promise to always deliver. Special thanks to the people behind the machines for the good work you do, and from us we say good evening, and may you have freedom.
Before I forget,